Good morning, students. As we have already finished the chapter, so we are going to have a look into some of the numericals associated with this particular concept. I'll be solving some of the questions over here relative to which you'll get many of the questions in your books, or you can find the questions from internet and solve them. Let's move to the first question. The distance x of a particle moving in one dimension under the action of a constant force is related to time t by the equation t is equal to under root x plus 3, where x is in meters and t is in seconds. Find the displacement of particle when its velocity is 0. See, students, make it a habit that whenever you see the question, read it at least twice and try to find out all the quantities which have been provided over there. For example, if we have a look into this particular question, what are the things that have been provided over here? Time has been given to us. We have a distance whose value is x. Moreover, as you can see in the statement itself, find the displacement of a particle when its velocity is 0. That means the value of v is given as 0 over here. Since we already know the value of v in this question, so let's try out something so that we can produce an equation which is equal to v. The equation that has been given to us is t is equal to root x plus 3. If we rearrange it, we can write it as root x is equal to t minus 3. Now, we all know that in order to calculate velocity from distance, we can differentiate it with respect to t. But the problem here is that the distance over here has been given in under root form. So first of all, we are going to square both sides of the equation so that we obtain an expression for displacement. Now, differentiating with respect to t, we get dx upon dt, which can also be written as v is equal to 2t minus 6. As we all know that differentiation of t square gives us 2t, and on differentiation of 6t, we will get 6 over here, whereas 9 is constant, so its differentiation will yield 0 value. Now, we obtained an expression for v over here, but we already know that the value of v is 0 since it was given in the question. So, taking the value of v as 0, we can rewrite the expression as 0 is equal to 2t minus 6. Now, from here we can calculate the value of t, which is coming out to be 3 seconds. Putting the value of t from here into the equation number 1, that is x is equal to t square minus 6t plus 9, we get the value of x is equal to 0. Since we had to calculate the displacement over here, so we have got the value of displacement as 0 meters over here. Let's move to the next question. An object moves from point A to B with a speed of 40 meters per second and returns from B to A with a speed of 60 meters per second. Calculate the average speed and average velocity of the object. If we try to locate it on a line, we can say that an object started to travel from point A towards point B in this particular manner, and when it was moving in this particular direction, its speed was 40 meters per second. Now, the object after reaching over here moves back to point A with a speed of 60 meters per second. So, what we can say over here, the velocity for the first motion, that is from A to B, is 40 meters per second. Velocity for the second motion, that is from B to A, is 60 meters per second. let us assume that the distance from point A to point B is x. So what we can say about the total distance covered by the object, that it covers a distance of x from A to B and back a distance of x again from B to A. That means the total distance covered by the object will be 2x. Let's move further. Suppose that we assume that the object takes t1 time to move from point A to B and t2 time to move from point B to A. Then we can express t1 and t2 as, since we all know that time is equal to distance upon speed, so t1 will be equal to x upon 40, because the speed of moving from point A to point B was 40 meters per second, and t2 can be expressed as, in the same manner, x upon 60, because the speed with which the object moved from point B to A was 60 meters per second. Now we all know that in order to calculate average speed, we have to find the ratio of total distance upon total time. So the total distance is x plus x, because x distance was travelled from moving to point A to B and again back from B to A. So summing up, we get 2x, and the total time taken is t1 plus t2, since the time taken from A to B was t1 and B to A was t2. So we can write it as x plus x upon t1 plus t2, which can be written as 2x, and substituting the values of t1 and t2 over here, we can write it as x upon 40 plus x upon 60. Now equating it, that is, we are finding the LCM of 40 and 60, it comes out to be 120, and expressing their numerators, we have 3x plus 2x. Simplifying it, we get the value of average speed as 48 meters per second. See students, we saw that the object was starting its motion from point A, moving to point B, and it is coming back to point A. That means we can say that the net displacement of the particle will be 0, because its initial and final position both are same. So since the value of displacement is 0, we all know that the average velocity is given as displacement upon time. So the value of average velocity will also come out to be 0 over here. Please note one thing which is different from this question. In this question we observed that the value of average speed and average velocity were coming out to be different. However, the value of instantaneous speed and instantaneous velocity will always be same. Let's move to the third example question. A body starting from rest moves with an acceleration of 5 meters per second. After 4 seconds from the starting, the force accelerating the body is removed and there is no opposing force also. Draw time velocity graph for the first 8 seconds of the motion of the body and determine from the graph the distance travelled in 8 seconds. Let's see what are the quantities given to us in the question. A body is starting from rest. That means its initial velocity will be 0. U is equal to 0. Moves with an acceleration of 5 meters per second. Okay. So what do we get? The value of acceleration is 5 meters per second. But one condition is also given over here, that is after 4 seconds from starting, the force accelerating the body is removed and there is no opposing force also. That means after 4 seconds the acceleration will be 0 because the force acting on the object has ceased. So automatically what will happen? The value of acceleration will become 0. You can also find it out by the relation of force and acceleration. That is, force is directly proportional to acceleration. So if the value of force becomes 0, the acceleration will also become 0. Now what else is given to us in the question? That we have to draw time velocity graph for first 8 seconds. That means that total time given to us is 8 seconds. And we have to determine from graph the distance traveled in 8 seconds. So we will be making a velocity time graph, and then we are going to determine the distance from the graph. As I have already told you, I have written all the given things. That is, initial velocity is 0, acceleration is equal to 5 meters per second square for the first 4 seconds. Total time is equal to 8 seconds. So applying the first equation of motion for the first 4 seconds, we can get the value of velocity as v is equal to u plus at. Now since the value of u is 0, value of a is 5 and t is 4, so we can find out the velocity for the first 4 seconds, and it is coming out to be 20 meters per second. As we all know that after this no force is being applied, so v will be constant. Now since no acceleration is occurring, that means the velocity of the object will remain to be same. That is, it will remain to be 20 meters per second. So what did we find out over here? That the velocity of the object after 4 seconds was 20 meters per second, and the same velocity continued till 8 seconds. That means we can depict the velocity time graph for this particular situation in this manner. First of all, we are going to take time on x-axis, velocity on y-axis. I have taken the divisions on x-axis for time as 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and on y-axis as 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. We all know that for the when time was 0, the velocity was also 0. That is, u has been given as 0 over here. So the graph will start from this point. Moving further, the next value that has been given to us is at 4 seconds, the velocity is 20 meters per second. So we will draw a point locating 20 on y-axis and 4 on x-axis, which is b over here. Further, the next value that has been given to us is of 8 seconds. At 8 seconds, the velocity is again 20 meters per second. So we will draw a point over here also, and joining all the 3 points, we will get the graph for the particular situation. Now, we all know that in order to calculate distance from velocity time graph, we can find out the area under the graph. So this whole portion can be divided into two shapes, that is a triangle and a rectangle, a triangle ABE and a rectangle BCDE. Summing up the areas of both the portions, we can find out the area of AB as half base into height. The base is 4 and the height is 20, so 4 into 20 over here. Similarly, for this rectangle, we can find the area by length into breadth. So the length over here is, see, this rectangle is lying between the values 8 and 4. So what will be the length from 4 to 8? 8 minus 4. And what is the height over here? Into 20. So solving this whole value, we will get the value as 120 meters, which is the total distance traveled by the body in 8 seconds. Let's move on to the next question. A ball is dropped from a height of 90 meters on a floor. At each collision with the floor, the ball loses 1/10 of its speed. Plot speed time graph of its motion from first 12 seconds. Let's see the question again. A ball is dropped from a height of 90 meter. That means the height is given to us as 90 meter. Now, since the ball is dropping with respect to the gravitational acceleration, so the value of A will be equal to G, which is 9.8 meters per second square. Now, what do we observe? As soon as ball hits the floor, it loses some of its speed. The loss in speed has been given as 1/10 of the net speed before striking the ground. That means if this is the floor, let us suppose that this is the floor and this is a ball which is falling from top to here, striking and moving back up, striking and moving back up, and it is following this sort of motion. Then what can we say? That when this ball falls down, the velocity over here, okay, the velocity over here will decrease as soon as this strikes and move upwards by 1/10 times. So we have to plot a speed time graph of this motion for the first 12 seconds. That is, the time is also given to us. Let's see how we are going to go about this particular question. Now, in order to make a velocity time graph, first of all, we need to know certain values of velocity and time, and until we have those values, we cannot plot it on a graph. So let's try to calculate the values of velocity at certain time intervals. So let t be the time taken by the ball in the first collision with the floor. Since we have taken the ball in our hand and we are dropping it, we all know that the initial velocity will be 0 over here, because we are not applying any force. We are just dropping it and the ball is moving because of the gravitational acceleration. So when the ball is left from our hand and at the time it touches the ground, the total time taken for this motion has been taken as t over here. Now, applying the second equation of motion, we have h is equal to ut plus half gt square. The value of height is given as 90. U is 0 as we are dropping the ball. I already told you we are dropping the ball, so initial velocity will be 0. So u into t will give us 0 over here. Half, value of g is 9.t into t square. Solving this equation for the value of t, we will get t is equal to 30 upon 7 seconds, which can be written as 4.28 seconds. Now we already have the time for this particular motion, but we know that we have to plot a velocity time graph, so we need to have a value of velocity also. Now, applying the first equation of motion, in this particular situation we get v is equal to u plus gt. Value of u is 0 plus g is 9.8 into value of t is 30 upon 7, which we have found out over here. So equating this, we get the value of v as 42 meters per second. That means when the ball was going to strike the ground for the first time, its speed just before hitting the ground was 42 meters per second. As soon as it hit the ground, it loses 1/10 of its speed. So what will be its speed once it hits the ground? Let us consider the new velocity that will come after hitting the ground as v dash. So we can write v dash is equal to 9 by 10 into 42. Students, please note here, I have taken it as 9 by 10 because we have to find out the value of the new velocity over here. If I had to find out the value of loss, I would have taken it as 1 by 10. I'll repeat it again. If I had to find the value of loss in velocity, I would have calculated 1/10 value of 42 meters per second. However, I have to calculate the value of velocity which is left after the collision. So it will be 9 by 10 into 42 meters per second. If you have a problem over here, you can also calculate it by finding out 1/10 of this velocity and subtracting the obtained value from 42. You will get the same answer over there also, that is 37.8 meters per second. That means after striking the ground, the ball will rise at a speed of 38 meters per second. Now, when the ball reaches the maximum height, what will be its velocity over here? Students, please note one thing. Whenever anything is thrown upwards at the maximum height, its velocity becomes 0. So what we can say over here, that at the maximum height, suppose that the time taken to reach the maximum height is t dash. So when the ball reaches the maximum height, its speed will become 0 over there, and the time taken for this we are considering as t dash over here. Now at the maximum height, we all know that the final velocity will be 0. However, the initial velocity of this particular motion was 37.8 meters per second. The time taken is t dash, and the gravitational acceleration that will be working over here will be minus 9.8 meters per second. We are taking this minus over here because the body is moving in opposite direction to the gravitational acceleration. By first equation of motion, we have v is equal to u plus dt. Velocity of v is 0 over here. U is 37.8. G is minus 9.8 and t is t dash. Please note this is comma over here, okay, not on this one. So this is t dash. Solving this, we get the value of t dash as 3.86 seconds. That means we already have two time intervals. The first one was of 4.28 seconds and the second one is of 3.86 seconds. Let's move forward. Now, once the ball reaches the maximum height, it will fall down again. On falling again, the ball will acquire the speed of 37.8 meters per second just before colliding the floor. Please note one thing, students. The speed with which, or you can say the velocity with which the ball was thrown upwards, or you can say its initial velocity when it started to move upwards, will be exactly equal to the velocity of the ball when it reaches the ground. That means the same velocity with which it started its motion while going upwards will be obtained again by the body when it is just going to touch the ground. So here in this case we got the velocity as 37.8 meters per second. One more thing, the net time taken by the ball to rise will always be equal to the net time taken by the ball to come back down. This is not only for ball, for any of the object which is rising upwards. Whenever it will fall down and no external force is acting on it, the time taken for the upward motion will be equal to the time taken by for the downward motion. So, because the time taken to go upwards was 3.86 seconds, the same time will be taken for the object to move downwards also. We have taken it as t double dash over here. So t double dash will be equal to 3.86 seconds. Now we can observe from here that we have got three values of time, t, t dash and t double dash, and adding all the three values we are getting a sum total of 12 seconds. And if you remember in the question itself, we had to plot the graph for 12 seconds. That means we already have our values of time. Let's find out the velocity which will be observed after the ball collides the ground. Again, as we have already done previously also, that is the remaining velocity will be 9/10 of the velocity before colliding. So it will be 9 by 10 into 37.8, which is equal to 34 meters per second. So the overall values that we are having over here are, when the time was 0, the speed of the ball was 0. When the time is 4.28, the speed of the values, we are getting two values. Just before the collision it was 42 meters per second, and just after the collision it is 37.8 meters per second. At time 8.14 we again have the velocity as 0. At time 12 again we have got two values, 37.8 meters per second just before the collision and 34 meters per second just after the collision. So taking these values and plotting it on a graph, we get for time 0 we had the speed as 0, so the graph will start from here. Next value was given as 4.28 seconds, which was 42 meters per second and 37.8 meters per second. So this will lie here somewhere, that is 4.28 meters per second, and corresponding to it the values we are getting over here are 42 meters per second, as you can observe over here, and 37.8 meters per second. Because these both values are occurring on the same second, so the graph falls instantly over here. Again, it uniformly moves to a velocity of 0 meters per second in 8.14 second time. So you can observe over here that in 8.14 second we are getting the value as 0 over here. The graph rises back again, and at 12 seconds we are getting two values, 37.8 and 34. So plotting two values at 12 seconds, we get the first value is 37.8 meters per second, and the second value that we are getting over here will be 34 meters per second. So this will be the graph for the described motion over here. Let's move on to the next question. An aircraft is flying at a height of 3,400 meters above the ground with uniform speed. If the angle subtended at an observation point on the ground by two positions of the aircraft 10 seconds apart is 30 degree, what is speed of the aircraft? Now, what do we observe over here? What is given in the question that if the observer is standing over here, an aircraft is moving at a height of 3,400 meters above him. Now, between two positions, that is when aircraft was on point A and when aircraft is on point B, the angle subtended on the observer by these points will be 30 degree in all. So we can divide it into two sections of 15 degree and 15 degree. That means we are having two triangles now, that is triangle BCO and triangle ACO, both of which have an angle of 15 degree each. Now the time given to us is 10 seconds, and we have to find out the speed of the aircraft. What I have already told you is the same thing given over here. Suppose aircraft is flying along PQ at a height OC is equal to 3,400 meters above point O. Let A and B, the two positions of aircraft, 10 seconds apart. That means the time taken to travel from point A to point B is 10 seconds. Then angle AOC is equal to angle BOC is equal to 15 degree. This is what we saw over here also. Now moving further, we have aircraft covers a distance AC in 5 seconds. Obviously, if the total distance traveled from A to B is 10 seconds, so because these are equidistant from this point, so AC will be, the time taken to cover the distance AC will become 5 seconds, and similarly the time taken to cover CB will also become 5 seconds. So in triangle ACO, tan 15 can be given as AC upon OC, because tan theta is perpendicular upon base. So in triangle ACO, we are taking it as perpendicular upon base, so it will become AC upon OC, which can also be written as, or you can say the value of AC can be written as OC tan 15 degree, putting the values of OC, which is given as 3,400, and the value of tan 15 is 0.27. so solving these, we get the value of AC as 911 meter. Now we already have the value of AC over here, that is the distance traveled by the object in 5 seconds. So taking the value of distance traveled in 5 seconds upon 5 seconds, we get the value as 182.2 meters per second, which will be the velocity of the aircraft. One more thing, we already know that the velocity of the plane for the 5 seconds will equal to be the velocity of the plane for the 10 seconds, because the plane is moving with the same velocity. So ultimately we are getting the speed of aircraft as 182.2 meters per second. Let's try out one question where we have to apply the concept of integration also. I believe you have already gone through the previous classes and you already know that where are the places where we have to do differentiation and integration in order to find out the values. If you have not gone, please go through it. So let's move on to the question itself. An object moving with a speed of 6.25 meters per second is deaccelerated at a rate given by dv upon dt is equal to minus 2.5 root v, where v is instantaneous speed. The time taken by the object to come to the rest would be, this we have to calculate over here. So what has been given to us? The value of acceleration has been given to us as dv upon dt, which is equal to minus 2.5 root v. The negative sign over here represents that the body is getting deaccelerated. Now what else is given to us? The speed of the object is also given, which is 6.25 meters per second. This 6.25 meters per second is the initial speed of the object. So I already explained this thing to you. What are the given quantities? Velocity is equal to 6.25 meters per second. That is the initial velocity. dv upon dt, that is acceleration, is equal to minus 2.5 under root v. Rearranging this, we can write it as 1 upon root v dv is equal to minus 2.5 dt. Now since we have dt over here, whereas we have to find out the value of t, so what we can do over here, we can go for integration. So integrating both sides, we have, now we are integrating 1 upon root v with respect to dv between the limits v to 0. Please note one thing over here. The object is deaccelerating and we are saying that the object is going to stop after deacceleration. That means the final velocity that has been given to us is 0. So our initial value is v over here and the final velocity is 0 over here, which is equal to minus, we have taken this negative sign outside, integration from 0 to t of 2.5 dt. Again this 2.5 is constant, so it will move outside. This I have written as such, and this will become as 2.5 will move outside, so we will integrate only dt over here between the limits 0 to t. Now integrating 1 upon root v, you all know that root v can be written as v raised to the power 1 by 2, and if we take this into numerator, it can be written as v raised to the power minus 1 by 2. So putting the formula of integration, that is x raised to power n plus 1 upon n plus 1, we get the value as v raised to the power 1 by 2 upon 1 by 2 between the limits v to 0, and here integrating dt, we got the value t over here and the constant was written as such. Now please note one thing over here, that rearranging these values, since this will come and get multiplied over here, so we can write it as 2 under root v. v raised to power 1 by 2 can be written as under root v, so this will become 2 under root v. And you must be thinking that how this negative sign has come over here. Please note one thing, if we are reversing the values of the limits, that means if we put this as upper limit and this as lower limit, it can be done by putting a negative sign along with the terms. So this is what we have done over here, because our lower limit was v and the upper limit was 0, and we have to interchange them. That is, we have to make v as upper limit and 0 as lower limit, so we have taken a negative sign over here. So applying this limit on this, we will get the value as 2 root v, and the negative sign got cancelled from both the sides. So we have 2 root v is equal to 2.5t. Value of v is given as 6.25 meters per second, so we can put the value as under root 6.25 is equal to 2.5 t, and hence the value of t comes out to be 2 seconds. Students, you already have learned about this displacement time, velocity time and acceleration time graphs in your previous classes, that is in class 9th itself. I hope you people know how to plot graphs and how to find values from these graphs. However, I am going to revise some of the graphs which are important over here. So first I have taken is motion of a ball thrown upwards. Now suppose you hold a ball in your hand and throw upwards. What will happen? You all know that while you are throwing the ball upwards, you are applying a certain force on it. That means the ball will have certain initial velocity. If the initial velocity is not applied to the ball, it is not going to move upwards. Suppose that we are taking the value of initial velocity as 50 meters per second. So what we can say that the ball started its motion at the velocity of 50 meters per second. You all know that as the ball keeps on moving upwards, its velocity keeps on decreasing. It starts to become slower and slower, and ultimately it reaches a point when its velocity becomes 0. This point is the maximum height of the ball. What will happen after this time? The ball will start to come down. So what are we observing? That the initial velocity of the ball was 50 meters per second and it started decreasing as the ball was moving upwards, ultimately coming to a value of 0 in 10 seconds. So in 10 seconds the ball attained the maximum height. What happens after the ball attains the maximum height? It starts coming down due to the gravitational acceleration of the earth, and again its velocity increases from 0 value. And as in the numerical section itself, I told you that ultimately before reaching the point where it started its motion from, it will attain the same velocity. That means if it started with a velocity of 50 meters per second, it will attain back the same velocity. However, the object is moving in opposite direction to the direction in which it was moving earlier. So now the value of velocity will be taken as negative. That is, after 10 seconds the velocity is again increasing but in opposite direction. So when the ball was moving upwards, its velocity was decreasing, and we have shown it on a positive side, whereas when it is moving downwards, its velocity is increasing and we are showing it on a negative side. So you can observe that the velocity is increasing from 0 to minus 50 over here in 20 seconds. The time taken by the ball to attain the maximum height was 10 seconds. The time taken to reach back again at the starting point from the maximum height is 10 seconds. So again, a thing that we studied earlier has been repeated over here. That is, the time taken by any object to move upwards will be equal to the time taken by it to move downwards. Let's try to plot the same condition on a displacement time graph. Now, when the ball is in our hand, the net displacement will be 0, and as the ball is thrown upwards and it keeps on moving upwards, the displacement will keep on increasing, and ultimately at the peak point, or you can say the highest point which the ball can attain, the displacement will be maximum over there. The values corresponding to the displacement can be calculated from velocity time graph itself. However, you saw that at the 10th second the ball reached the maximum height, so the same thing we are observing over here also. After reaching the maximum height, the ball starts to fall down. That means again it is starting to move back towards the initial position, so the displacement will keep on decreasing, and when the ball reaches back the hand, ultimately the displacement becomes 0. Let's move to the next graph, which is for a ball freely falling on a perfectly elastic plate. In the first case, we threw a ball upwards and then caught it back, and we were drawing a graph for it. Let's assume that we are dropping a ball downwards and it is bouncing on a perfectly elastic plate. Now, since we are taking perfectly elastic plate over here, that means the ball will not lose any energy or any velocity on striking the plate. That means the height, or you can say the velocity of the ball that was being attained before falling down, will be equal to it being attained after striking the surface. So what do we observe over here? We are dropping the ball from our hand. So what will be the initial velocity? We are not throwing, we are dropping, so initial velocity will be 0 over here. What do we observe after 1 second? The ball goes and strikes the elastic plate, and just before striking the elastic plate, its velocity is 5 meters per second. Now, because it is striking on an elastic plate, so what we can say, the speed of the ball before the collision will be equal to the speed of the ball just after the collision. So what do we observe over here? That the speed of the ball just before the collision was 5 meters per second, so it will remain to be 5 meters per second. However, because the direction of the motion has become opposite, so what will happen? We have taken the value as negative over here. Again, the ball moves upwards and reaches a maximum height. As soon as it reaches the maximum height, its velocity will become 0. After reaching the maximum height, the ball will again fall down and attain a maximum velocity of 5 meters per second just before striking the ground. Please note one thing, this is where the ball has attained the maximum height. The ball was rising upwards and again it is falling down from here on. But as soon as it reaches the ground, just before striking the ground, its velocity is 5 meters per second. Again, just after striking the ground, its speed is minus 5 meters per second because the direction of motion has changed again, and the same process keeps on repeating. If we plot a displacement time graph for the same condition, what do we observe? That if we are taking the reference point as ground, then when the ball was in our hand, it is at a certain displacement from the ground. Now, as soon as we left the ball, it went onto the ground and the displacement becomes 0 over there because it is on the ground now. Again, it rises back from the ground to the same height because we are having elastic plate. So it is rising back to the same height. On rising back to the same height, it attains a maximum displacement, and because the velocity had become 0, so it will fall back again. As soon as it falls back again and touches the ground, its displacement becomes 0 again. Again, I would like to tell you that in this particular graph, I am referring the motion with respect to floor. That is, the reference point is floor over here. Let's move to the next type of graphs which you have already studied in 9th standard. I would like to suggest one thing. Since you have time, you can go through class 9th books and revise all the graphs which were taught to you over there. Here we are taking the different graphs for an object moving with constant acceleration. First, I have taken it on an acceleration time graph. Since the condition itself says that the object is moving with constant acceleration, that means the value of acceleration will not change with respect to the time. The time is changing. However, the value on x-axis, that is acceleration, is constant in all the places. On representing it on a velocity time graph, we observe that the velocity with respect to time will change linearly in a specific manner because acceleration is being observed, or you can say constant acceleration is being observed over here. However, on representing the same thing on a displacement time graph, we will observe a curve, since the displacement in first second is less than the displacement in second is less than the displacement in third second, and the reason for that is that the velocity is continuously increasing, and because the velocity is continuously increasing, we are experiencing acceleration, and that is the reason a curve has been shown over here to represent this particular graph. students, we end with the chapter over here. Please go through all the classes and follow the instructions which I keep on giving in between the classes, since the more questions you solve, the better idea of the concept you can have. Thank you.